Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Two Cent podcast. We have here Miss Priya Angle with us. Miss Priya's experience in corporate treasury and finance come from over a decade of working in treasury and finance functions of MNCs like Volkswagen India, DMW Chrysler India, and Tata Blue Scope Steel. She is accredited management teacher of All India Management Association and has been associated with business schools of repute in Pune and as well as Bangalore. Priya Ma'am's currently pursuing her PhD from VTU Belgaum. She brings on table a judicious mix of industry and academia experience, which augurs well with the current business scenario, which demands for business schools as well as corporates collaborating to come to a part of a greater synergy. Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me here.
So, ma'am, I have following questions for you. So, like sustainability has become a really important tool today to battle the climate changes and other social, environmental, and economic factors. So, what do you think are the key sustainable measures undertaken by the financial institutions in India?
A lot of activity happening in the finance sector with specific reference to sustainability. So when you're looking at India per se, banks and other financial institutions are looking to develop innovative financing strategies. For example, there is this realization that providing banking to the poor is not poor bank, or providing finance to the poor is not poor banking per se. So in this context, let me talk about a few nationalized banks like Bank of India. Now, Bank of India is heavily focusing on, say, microfinance, where they are consciously making an attempt to ensure availability of credit to small and micro enterprises, because they believe in doing so would cater to the financial inclusion aspect of the SDGs that are there in place. So providing banking facilities and providing affordable credit becomes one important initiative. Providing financial products like pension funds and insurance products is another important initiative on which a lot of work is being done. Providing finance for community development initiatives. Now, these are all the areas where Bank of India has been actively participating. In addition to this, if you look at the regulator, for example, the RBI, the RBI has, made mandatory of ESG initiatives of corporates necessary for the top 1,000 corporates in India. If you look at SEBI has come out with guidelines for green bonds. The Indian Banking Association has also come up with voluntary guidelines, for responsible financing. Uh, Also, there is this Pradhan Mantri Kisan Yojana for providing crop insurance. So these are some of the areas in which we see a lot of work being done to provide finance to the underprivileged sections and to my small and medium enterprises with an objective of ensuring financial inclusion for growth and development of a country like ours.
So we can see that the need of the hour is being met by financial institutions, as especially the government institutions, which I could sense from the answer.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
So, ma'am, the second question is, according to you, what makes sustainability initiatives so important for the business enterprise? Why it is so necessary right now?
Yeah, see, as students of finance, all of us study that businesses run with the objective of making profits. So, doing well is one of the prime agendas of any corporate enterprise. But now going forward, in addition to doing well, doing good becomes extremely critical. And when we are talking of doing good, it is not just focusing on profits, but also focusing on needs of society and how environment could be protected in the process. Why this is important for organizations going forward? Why? Because the landscape is changing. We see that consumers today are becoming smart savvy, and recent surveys show that close to 75% of the consumers are willing to change their consumption habits and consumption patterns if they believe that it's going to promote sustainable development. The millennials also, the same surveys point out, are willing to pay more for products which are aligned to sustainable development goals and which are green products, so to say. So, from the organization point of view, if they want to capture market shares, retain market shares, it is inevitable, that they align their products, their practices, and their services to the needs of the consumers at large. Another very important thing to keep in mind is that practicing sustainability needs to become a way of life if I want to protect my brand and I want to protect my brand strategies. This becomes extremely important because if we look at, instances, Volkswagen for that matter, we saw a lot of bad publicity for Volkswagen because in order to show compliance with emission norms or environmental norms, they had tinkered with certain parts in the car, and that definitely does not do good for the brand equity of any kind of an organization. Also, sometimes it is the initiatives by the government or individuals is not adequate to bring about the desired change when you're looking at sustainability, and therefore, participation of corporate enterprises to drive these initiatives successfully becomes extremely important. I'll give you a very small example: palm oil. Palm oil is a very versatile product and it's a cheap product, and it is a part of many of the items that we consume on a daily basis, be it ice creams, be it lipsticks. But the problem with palm oil is the production of palm oil leads to a lot of carbon emissions, and therefore, Unilever as an organization has decided that as a part of its sustainable drive or sustainability drive, they are going to procure palm oil for its products only from authorized agents. Another important aspect to remember as to why sustainability becomes important for organizations in today's time is that purpose driven organizations today are able to attract the best of talent, and motivated employees help organizations achieve their strategic goals. So that becomes really, really critical for organizations in today's environment. Yeah?
Yes, I believe just to add up to the point, even sustainable fashion is also on trend right
Yes.
now. The leather is also
Yes,
the
we have sustainable fashion,
fashion.
we have sustainable cities, the concept of sustainable cities, which is coming up. So, all these are important elements, though we see them on a small scale and scattered. Going forward, these will become a lot more common.
It is actually very wonderful that the mindset of young millennials are changing and it is more focused towards sustainable. They are, unlike the older times, they are not much focused on that we want a leather belt. No, but they are focused on more environmental saving, less harm to animals.
Right.
So, yes. So that answers my question. So my third question is, in your opinion, what are the challenges that India faces in integrating the sustainability into the financial system?
Oh, I think there is a lot to be done. The first thing which I'm going to talk about is strengthening of the regulatory framework. So we need to have better regulations which are aligned to the concept of sustainability. While some work has been done, but a lot more needs to be done. Another important thing is strengthening of financial institutions, which would help in the promotion of achieving of the sustainable development goals. For example, the IREDA. We've seen the IREDA bonds in the recent past. Strengthening such institutions becomes important. Another important factor is building of capabilities and capacities, especially in the domain of financial ratings and financial disclosures, because while we may have mandates and statutory requirements of disclosures, we also need, a system or a mechanism where third party validation of all the initiatives which the corporates have in place is becoming a necessity. That becomes important. Also, we have not really seen a lot of foreign funds flowing into sustainable financing initiatives in our country, which means probably we need to look at how regulations pertaining to external commercial borrowings need to be modified from what they are at present. Strengthening of the capital markets for promoting green bonds, sustainable bonds, which are already in place, is also another thing that I can think of.
Yes. So, ma'am, as you pointed out, rating agencies also play a very
Hmm.
important role. So, like
Yes,
Crystal, Care, they would have a
yes,
very big shoes to fill in this sustainability change.
yeah.
So that also answers my question.
Mm.
So, ma'am, Another question is,
Hmm.
can you share some insights on how the investment landscape has changed overall on the
Uh,
because of the introduction of sustainability?
well, if you look at the investment landscape, large institutional investors, your pension funds, mutual funds, are increasingly looking at the ESG criteria, the environmental, social, and governance framework, to decide where they want to put their money in. So they're consciously making choices of investing in organizations which are addressing the ESG relevant issues in a given society. So that's on the investment side, so to say. SEBI has given a mandate that like I mentioned earlier, top 1,000 companies need to disclose what kind of initiatives they are adopting under the BRSR, which is Business Reporting and Sustainability Reporting Initiative that they have in place. Consumers, like I said, are also demanding products which are driven by concepts of sustainability, and therefore, it becomes relevant for organizations to, keep the changing tastes and preferences and the demands of the consumers in mind. The RBI also is doing a lot of work in terms of policy formulation and developing strategies to mitigate risks emanating out of, say, climate change, by tying up with organizations like the Network for Green Financing Systems.
So that answers my
Yeah.
question. So, ma'am, till now we spoke about how corporates and governmental institutions play a role in bringing the sustainability into the bigger picture
Hmm.
to make it a very important
Hmm.
aspect while investing or anything related to the financial system.
Hmm.
So, ma'am, my question is, how can one contribute,
Hmm.
say a layman, how can one contribute towards the sustainability?
See, at an individual level, every small step taken really contributes towards sustainability. For instance, saving of electricity and saving of water, or responsibly using electricity and water, is something each one of us can do at our individual levels. Another important thing is maybe all of us should consciously and actively participate in various initiatives that are announced, by the governments, by educational institutions, by NGOs. You have tree plantation drives, you have river and lake cleaning initiatives. Students like you also go to schools where underprivileged children are taught by you. So these are all a part of sustainable development. But in addition to all these that we can do in our day to day lives, I think this focus and this realization that we as consumers have to be responsible for the consumption, or responsible consumption, becomes very important. Now, what is responsible consumption? To my mind, buying in bulk to reduce, say, pollution because of packaging material, could be one way of looking at responsible consumption. You look at the food wastage in the canteen.
Hmm.
Okay, food wastage in the canteen is a big thing. Can we think of means to reduce this kind of wastage? That could also be a small step in contributing towards sustainability. You have a biodiversity initiative in the campus where you have reed beds. So some of the reed beds are active, some of the reed beds are inactive. So as students, what are the initiatives that you can take to make this entire ecosystem a little more aligned to, some of the concepts of sustainability that you have learned? Will go a long way.
So, ma'am, these solutions are really good and something to think about when we go back at home,
Yeah.
right? Some solutions like food wastage or even bulk buying are something which I ponder upon when I think that how much food I am wasting while I'm in mess, or how much I am buying and how much plastic is being wasted.
Absolutely.
So that is something to think about.
Correct.
So, ma'am, my last question is, what initiatives or innovations are shaping the sustainable finance?
A lot of innovative initiatives happening all over the world. For example, the World Bank has issued something known as a cat bond. What is a cat bond? It's a catastrophe bond which it has issued in countries like Mexico, Peru. Why? To provide financial assistance in case of a catastrophe hitting those nations in terms of earthquakes, floods, or tsunamis. The World Bank has also issued outcome based bonds. For example, there is this emission reduction bond which has been used to raise money to fund production of water purifiers in Vietnam. So the objective of this outcome based bond is to ensure that once water purifiers are installed, the traditional way of purifying water, which is using fossil fuel for heating of water, will get eliminated. And I have some data which tells me that, with the implementation of this project, it would reduce emissions to the extent of 6 million tons of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent to two coal power plants not really working for a given year. Of course, we have sustainability linked loans, we have sustainability linked bonds and equity as products which we see in different parts of the world. In India, we have the green bonds or the sustainability related bonds. Another initiative which the Canadian government, which comes to my mind, is the Canadian government's initiative to support women entrepreneurs. So they have come up with WLB bonds. Those are known as what is it called? Women livelihood bonds, with an objective of providing financing to women entrepreneurs to ensure equity, across genders in that particular community. So a lot of innovative things, especially in the domain of outcome-based bonds, are seen in different parts of the world today.
So, ma'am, these innovations and initiatives are really very important right now in terms of sustainability, and we can see that various governments of various countries are working towards it. Like you mentioned, in Canadian government and other governments, like uh, also the various kind of bonds which are issued, which promote sustainability. So we can actually sense the importance of sustainability right now.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, ma'am, that comes to the end of the discussion. Thank you so much for doing this podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me
Yes.
and wish you luck.
Yeah.